A question I have wondered about since I've seen it, I think 3 or 4 times now. I really love The Founder.
Thank you.
And I've always wondered, and my God, the producer is here. So this is my chance to find the answer. It seems like McDonald's was kind of involved with the movie. I mean, you're shooting at a lot of McDonald's type locations. You've got the arches right there on the poster. I mean, it's an incredible movie. Michael Keaton, one of the greatest actors who ever lived, as far as I'm concerned, and not just because he was Batman, although that's a big part of it. I mean, Dope Sick alone was tremendous, and also Worth, underseen film. Everybody should check out Worth with Michael Keaton. But The Founder, an incredible performance. It's like Breaking Bad, but in 2 hours, and it
Mm.
does not speak well for Ray Kroc. And so I wondered, did McDonald's, did they participate and just not read the script, or did they go, what are you going to do? That's the story of Ray Kroc. How did you walk that line of getting them involved without them worrying about tarnishing the brand a little bit?
Well, to talk about the quick origin story, I remembered as a kid going to McDonald's with my dad and seeing the bronze plaque on the wall that said Founder Ray Kroc. And I remember even as a kid, the cognitive dissonance of how did a guy named Ray Kroc found a place called McDonald's? It didn't make sense to me as an 8-year-old. And when I was older, I heard a song by Mark Knopfler from Dire Straits called Boom Like That. And if you guys listen to that song, it's the Ray Kroc story. It's about him. And I listened to the song and I was like, what is this about? And I was fascinated by it. So I read Ray Kroc's book, Grinding It Out. I knew there was no way to get the rights to that. I read a book by John Love called Behind the Arches. I called the publishing company about getting the rights for that. I chased the rights for probably 5 or 6 years, maybe longer. Called the publishing company on that. They're like, call McDonald's. And I realized that McDonald's had purchased the rights to these books and probably buried the authors in cement. Like they didn't want this story told. I'm totally exaggerating. I don't want to get sued by McDonald's, but there was just not a appetite for the story to be told. And I was reading somewhere that the McDonald's family had something to do with a motel chain. I was Googling late one night. I'd started the company with Jeremy and I mentioned this to him. He was like, that's a great idea. Let's go after it again. I'd already tried so many times. And then I found this motel in Massachusetts and I just reached out to the manager and I said, hey, does the McDonald's family own this, have anything to do with the motel? And they're like, yeah, they do. I said, here's my name, here's my information. I'd like to talk about making a movie about the origin of McDonald's. And the nephew of Dick McDonald, the grandson of Dick McDonald called me, Dean French. And he said, not Dean French, that's last name French, and he said, we've been waiting for 50 years for someone to tell our story. And they had articles and letters and audio recordings of Ray Kroc, because they used to send these dictaphones back and forth to each other. So they had like audio recordings of like Ray Kroc talking, and then it'd be the McDonald's brothers talking, and then they send it back and forth. So it was like this treasure trove of like this archive of this amazing information. And McDonald's would not give you permission to do this, but what I did was I got the life rights to the McDonald's from the McDonald's family. And then from there, there's a guy that I have to mention. His name is Michael C. Donaldson. He's one of the foremost First Amendment lawyers in the business. And Michael is the guy when they did Escape from Tomorrow, where they filmed a horror movie at Disneyland without permission. And he's the guy who got them who helped give them the First Amendment basis for that. But to explain to people in a nutshell how it works, basically you get a great lawyer like Michael Donaldson, who's a First Amendment expert, to write a brief saying why this is covered under fair use. I mean, McDonald's is a very well-known brand. Ray Kroc is no longer living. You can tell this story, and then you take that brief that he writes and you go to an insurance company, and that insurance company goes, well, this guy knows what he's talking about. He's a First Amendment lawyer, and you get that insurance company that insure you. So if you get sued by McDonald's, they're going to pay for the lawsuit. So that was essentially the process. Now, McDonald's has they have a museum that has a lot of information. One of the things our art director was trying to figure out was how the Speedy system actually worked, because we wanted to recreate the thing as closely as possible. And they actually did send us a brochure that outlined the Speedy system in a way that allowed us to recreate the restaurant in a way that I don't think has ever been done as accurately. So they were helpful in that way. I talked to a guy who was like the PR guy, super famous guy, like the PR guy for Ray Kroc for many years. And he called me and was talking to me, and I was calling to talk to him to get some information. And I realized about 5 minutes into the call that the only person getting information was him, and he was very good at his job. But you know, for the most part, I think it's interesting because I actually, there's, you know, look, you watch it, it's kind of a Rorschach test for capitalism. That's what I always saw it as. It's like sustainable capitalism versus like burn down every truff of the tree capitalism that Ray Kroc represented. But anyone who's an entrepreneur, anyone who works and tries to achieve, they can't not look at Ray Kroc and admire him. He was 52 years old when he took on with the back, he had health problems, failing when he started, and he got into McDonald's. So the fact that he built into this world empire at his age is inspiring to anyone. So I never set out to vilify Ray Kroc. I never set out to, I mean, I certainly didn't see him as the good guy, but you have to respect him. You have to respect what he did and what he represents. And I feel like that story of McDonald's was really a battle for the soul of America, and Ray Kroc won, and his style of capitalism, that sort of no holds barred capitalism, won. And, you know, and that story really fascinated me. But you know, we had examples of what it would have looked like if it stayed in the family. Like we had In-N-Out Burger, which is very much pays their employees well and does a great product, and all these things that kind of reflected what McDonald's might have been. But I think anyone who watches it, they come out, you know, because McDonald's, I think from a corporate standpoint, had this, you know, they feel like a corporate machine. I think when you watch the founder, when you look at McDonald's, you see two brothers who loved each other, who wanted to make food that was affordable for families. And I think from a brand standpoint, while it might have tarnished them about Ray Kroc and his founder and being the founder, I absolutely think it helped them in the sense of people seeing these two brothers who had this just great concept for making food that's affordable and great.
It's just an absolutely tremendous film, and
thank you, man.
And it's well, you don't need me to tell you the whole the whole world is celebrating the founder. It's just a tremendous piece of cinema.